Yeah, hello everybody. This is your host Christian, and today we have Daniel. Daniel, welcome to the Ledger Show.
Hey, thank you very much, Christian. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, so it's really my pleasure to have you here. As we were discussing before, the main reason for having you here is that you're like a finance automation expert, and you work at different startups, I guess, trying to automate things there. And right now, if I'm not mistaken, you work at Playtomic, and you're in charge of AR and billing there.
Yes, I joined Playtomic 2, 3 months ago, right before summer, and yeah, I'm in the billing department, like pretty much same, trying to improve processes and automate things with the ERPs and the back office software that we use.
So your role there is to smooth the billing process as much as you can, and ideally have something fully automated.
Yes, you yeah, normally when you work in account receivable and billing, obviously in startups, you use a lot of spreadsheets. So when the startup starts to grow and the business needs to scale, you will probably hire uh, an ERP, and then you kind of have to figure out how to connect the spreadsheet that you have and the data you have with that ERP to try to make it more things more smoothly and more scalable. Because obviously at the start, you're not worried about being scalable. You're just worrying about getting clients and getting stuff done. But then when we start talking about scaling and automation, then it's the important part, because when you're expanding right now, Playtomic is throughout Europe and America and several countries. You need to worry about that kind of stuff, trying to that everything works and that everything is pretty much automated.
That's super interesting. Would you say that the main concern about using spreadsheet is scaling up, or also like you have other issue about reporting, like many people like touching spreadsheets, the fact that it's not like a clear
That's actually a
process?
great question. Yeah, I'm kind of obviously when you work in startup, a lot of people are going to ask you for information, and then you kind of struggle with, uh, shall I share my spreadsheet for them? Maybe they touch things and things gets a little bit messed up, because some people in departments are not finance, they're not very familiar with the formulas, so things can get a little bit messy. So when you share spreadsheets, it's always important, I think, for me to share with at least comment or views. People can get comments, and obviously when you have an ERP, you have a lot more control, and in the end nobody's going to ask you, can I look at the ERP? They only care about spreadsheets and the numbers. I was going to say, how do you do it on the ERP and stuff. So that's more for finance to focus on.
Okay. Did you help Playtomic moving to the ERP, or it was already there when?
Yeah, actually, when I joined, they were starting to work with NetSuite, and they implemented it, I think, in April. So we're still in the phase of implementation right now, where we want to go, and the idea in the near future. Obviously, it takes time, but we use Stripe as a payment platform. So the idea is to integrate Stripe with NetSuite. Of course, there are struggles when you talk about integration. You have to make sure that everything works properly, that the taxes on the invoices that we issue are properly calculated before trying to automate anything. So actually, this week we were planning for Q4 for the priorities on the billing department, and the things that we need to improve with the help of the product department. And yeah, that's where we want to go, of course, but we need to take some steps before, some action plans, to make sure that all the things that we do previously uh, are correct. So there are not mistakes in the middle that we might lose sight of when you try to automate. Sometimes you lose sight of what's going on, because you don't have that visibility when you do it manually. And I think that's the important part, to take the proper steps and to take time to do the integrations and automate. So planning is very important.
Okay, so just to set the stage, Playtomic is a B2C company, so people can book football camps.
Yes, actually, Playtomic is focused on racket sports. I mean, in tennis, badminton,
Okay.
and paddle, where people in the cities can find someone to play with. They're at the level, and also we work with the clubs to advertise their courts and the app, so the players can book there. And we're trying to build a community of players, really, to people to get in touch, play with each other, and yeah.
Okay. So I guess you have the B2C part, but also the B2B with the course owner, with the.
Yes. The model business is a little bit complex because we have the clubs that are depending on the contract, can be our vendors or our customers. For instance, in Italy, we have a commissions business model. So in Italy, the Italian clubs pay a commission for using the Playtomic app and the support that we give in the app. And obviously, the players also pay a little bit of commission. But so yeah, we have
Okay.
both sides of the business.
Okay. And like you mentioned before, you're using Stripe. Are you using Stripe both for like payment processing and also for billing?
Um, right now, for billing, we're using NetSuite actually
Mm-hmm.
for the Italian model. On the payments that we have in Stripe, Stripe is billing the clients. We want to integrate that with NetSuite to invoice all from the NetSuite from the ERP. That is it's a bit complex because on Stripe obviously it's big platform, so we have several countries and we have to take into consideration, all the taxes that we have not only in Europe but also in the US, in Australia, and in America.
Okay, that's quite interesting because like Stripe, it's a fully blown platform. I mean, you can start in one day billing pretty much wherever you want, but it's also very expensive. People
Yeah,
usually
yeah, yes,
don't say this,
transaction cost. Yeah,
but yeah, I think they charge starting from 0.5% for for the billing part. So every invoice that you create, they're gonna charge that part plus the payment processing part. So I guess it makes a lot of sense to bring this into NetSuite.
yeah. I think it's a good platform, to receive payments because you can receive worldwide. But obviously, you have different models that can help you to do things better. But as you mentioned, obviously, the goal in the end, when you're a big company, is having everything in house, and not depends on external connections and external providers.
You mentioned the taxing part I mean, it's something that you need to consider. Is that a challenging part because you need to recreate all the rules that maybe you have in Stripe or that Stripe does for you inside NetSuite?
Yes, I have actually the same issue, and in Spotahome, mainly obviously our core business is in Europe. So in Europe, you have the different tax regulations that you need to comply with, and also you have intra-community transactions, which doesn't have VAT. So you need to validate the VAT number for the different companies to make sure what VAT you're applying on the invoice. So it's a completely different world, and every invoice that you issue might have different specifications. In Germany, I think you have to have a box with the details of the taxes that you're applying and all the breakdown of the numbers. In other countries, not as much. In Italy, they have not only the VAT number, but they also have the codice fiscale, which is valid for them, not for other European companies. But if they use it, you have to adapt to that as well.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, billing is so hard. Like,
Yeah,
especially
sometimes it
in
doesn't sound like it, right? It's issuing an invoice, but in the end, you have a lot of things to consider.
yeah, it's like I can. I mean, I can get through with the Google Documents, but then you realize, okay, it's like 24 different countries. Every country has a different like set of rules, and then you need to do
Yes,
it at scale,
exactly.
which is like 1,000 invoices per month. Um, you mentioned your experience at Spotahome, and that I think there you had the maybe more general role, like because you were a finance manager there.
Yes, I was managing the entire account receivable department. So I was in charge of the whole billing cycle from issuing the invoices to the reconciliations, and also I was the person involved in all the projects that when you want to expand the business, you're gonna try new projects and a new business to explore new business with your customers. So I was trying to kind of reflect that from a account receivable finance perspective. How that integrates to first to our ERP, and what do we need to do to account for that revenue properly.
So, how was the billing part when you started Spot at Home, and how you left the billing part when you left? I guess a lot of things happen in between.
There was when I started, we only have the core business with and Spot at Home. It was long-term rentals. So basically, we were the middleman between the tenants and the landlord, and that was it. We received the first payment, and then when the tenant moved in, we sent the payment to the landlord, and that's where Spot at Home just responsibilities ended. Then it was up to the tenants and landlords to continue with the payments and the relationship. And when I left, there was another project that involved that we were more present throughout the whole stay of the tenant, meaning that we guarantee the rent for the landlords. So every month we would try to charge the tenants the money and then send it to the landlords. And also, when I started, we also struggled with the part that we discussed before, which was the VAT, intercommunity VAT. Basically that checking that the companies were valid in the VS, which is the European register for companies, and that was manual, and we had to struggle with that manually. So uh, after a year, that got a good understanding of how things were working. We were able to automate that, so all the invoices had zero VAT automatically, and we didn't have to like change it manually before sending them.
So before was like googling check VAT, then we click on the VS website, pass the VAT, check if the VAT was compliant, and then creating the invoice.
Um, so yes, something like that. In the end, you kind of remember all the companies that are VAT valid because you see them every day. But yeah, we had to do that, and we actually integrated with. We use another ERP there, which was Navision, and there was the possibility of connecting that to the VS. So all the clients that you had there will automatically check if the VAT number was valid before issuing an invoice. So yeah, that was actually a big win, I would say. Yeah, took a lot of pressure out of the department, and we were making sure that the invoices were done properly.
And I mean, there is where you use, I guess, Sheetgo to automate some of the operation, right?
Yes, we actually, when you work in startups, obviously you can use ERPs if you're big, but in the end, there'll always be spreadsheets everywhere. So sometimes, we use Sheetgo, for instance, we had to download 3 or 4 files to actually reflect a transaction in a vision. So what we did is with Sheetgo, we kind of, instead of downloading three different files and then copy paste all the information, we were able to kind of using Sheetgo take all the information from the spreadsheet without having to copy paste and on just one spreadsheet. So then we could upload a template to the ERP. So it was easier because when you are doing manually, you can get confused. Which column do I have to copy paste, which information is incorrect, slip my mind or not. So once you do it and you figure out that it's done correctly, you just don't have to even think about it. So it takes a lot of uh, time of the team and a lot of potential errors that are reduced when you automate, with external tools such as Sheetgo.
Something that you mentioned before is you also had to reconcile this payment because I guess you had some like you had to work a lot on the treasury operation. Like, okay, we received a payment from the tenant. We need to pay this. I don't know. I guess the deposit or like the initial payments to the landlord. How did you automate all this operation?
We had a query. It wasn't fully automated. We used a query to match the payments that we received. it was an Excel, I think it was an Excel query that kind of matched the payments from the tenants with to the payments that we had to do with the landlords, because sometimes it's hard to identify them if you don't have the proper reference. So basically, it was just a huge spreadsheet with a query that took, I don't know, 20 minutes to run, and we tried to do that, every couple of days, because otherwise it will get too big, and it will end up taking a lot of time.
I see. So it was only credit card payments or also bank transfers?
We attempted to get only car payments. Sometimes, when some countries it wasn't possible for some international constraints between banking, we had to receive bank transfers as well, which were the hardest actually to reconcile. Because sometimes it depends on the person if they put the proper description there or concept of the transfer or not. So yeah,
So
we struggle a
I
little bit
guess
also.
partially automated, but with a lot of external control. Like someone has to go through the rows and check, okay, is this the right payment?
Um,
Was this paid?
yes, a little bit. At the end of every cycle, we need to check if we receive the correct payment or if we are missing a payment. So obviously, there was kind of automated, but when you try to automate, there's also way more that you can do. It's on stages. In Spotahome, the foundation was very good, but there was still room for development and improvement.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, so you work at two different companies where somehow they had an ERP, Microsoft Navision and Spotahome, and now you're using Oracle NetSuite at Playtomic. Uh, like from the finance automation like point of view, what is the role that the ERP has for you? Like it's something that you should invest in as soon as possible, or it's just a part of the system and you should use it as a general ledger because anyway you need to have other system.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good question. I think the role that ERP plays for me, maybe it's not something that you have to have from the beginning, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it helps to centralize all the operations and all the finance transaction in one place, and also it will help you with to issue a proper reporting and do tax declarations. Normally, you have everything there, so you can bring your reportings, and it's always easier to have the accounting in house. Now, because if you don't have an ERP, you probably have an external accountant that handles all of that for you. So when you want to have that in house, you will end up probably with an ERP, and in the end, I think the role of an ERP is having all the financial information centralized to issue the invoices, either to report to investors and to declare the taxes to the local authorities. And I think, it's important also if you're thinking about, having an ERP to build a strong foundation of a source of truth that you may have. So later on, you can connect to that ERP, because if you had all the information spread in different, I don't know, softwares or back office programs or spreadsheets, it's going to be harder to put all that information in their ERP in the right way. And that's kind of where we at Playtomic. It has several sources of truth, so we have to kind of figure it out uh, to put everything in one place and then try to integrate that with NetSuite as well.
Okay. So the idea is to have to use the ERP as a central source of information, and then either plug in other systems as an integration that maybe you can use to you know
Yeah, that's the way I see
maybe
it. It's
software that are
also easier
better
to
suited for.
to do reconciliations, to reconcile the payments. Many ERPs have that built inside them. So if you provide the correct information, some reconciliations are just done automatically. In the end, it's just a matter of where do you get the information from, and is it correct or not when you're trying to integrate that.
Is there any case in which you should not look for an ERP, or like how would you approach this from a startup perspective? Like we have a bunch of spreadsheet, like what shall we do?
Yeah, I guess it depends on the size of the company and the stage that you're in. For instance, when I started at in the start, it was very little, maybe 25, 50 people, and we had an external accountant. So when you're at that point and you can manage all that information, you actually don't need an ERP if the external accountant can handle everything. But when you're talking about, scaling, you probably want to get bigger as a startup and scale. So you're going to have investors that they're going to request, for regular reports. Um, and in the end, you have to report to them. So it's always easier to get those reports from an ERP, and if you are scaling, it's also easier to have an ERP to have everything centralized and make sure that you're compliant in the different locations. I think it helps a lot with reporting, when you're trying to do the P&L to properly allocate the expenses and how to see everything. Otherwise, in spreadsheets, can get a little bit messy when you're talking about, cost centers and everything. It can get a little bit too much.
Um, let's say that you're a consultant right now and you're helping other companies achieving finance automation. I have had like an endless number of conversations with people, either finance manager, either finance startups, but also more bigger like public companies, um, where they basically cannot achieve stuff. Maybe they have reduced the amount of overdue invoices that they have, but it's everything is pretty manual. So you have to fight between things that I need to do today and things that are important, but they're not strictly necessary. Like, how would you approach this? Like, what would be like your plan from 0 to 100?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. I think a lot of teams struggle with that balance, like managing things from the past and backlog that you have with the things that you have to do today urgently, yes or yes, and the things that where you want to get, like to improve things for the future. Um, I think in order to improve for the future is the most important thing is to get a good understanding of how things are working as of now in a company. If you like go to as a consultant for a company and just spend 1 or 2 days with them and they show you what they do like very quickly and you don't get a good grasp of how everything is working and everything is connected, you're going to end up missing some probably key pieces when trying to automate. And I think that's where you make mistakes. I think the most important part is getting a good understanding, because otherwise you're just running for something where you don't have all the information with you, and you're gonna make mistakes, and maybe you put a lot of effort in trying to do something when that wasn't really necessary, or it wasn't the pain point that you thought that it was. Maybe the pain point was somewhere else that you missed because you were like focusing on something that was very that appeared big, but in the end it didn't took too much time, or wasn't maybe as important as other things.
Okay. So one way to approach this would be to bring a consultant that can focus with the team to, okay, what are the things that you're trying to do? What are you plan to improve them? Try to understand how they do things right now and then suggest improvements.
Yes, I think also, it's important to see how the things that the finance team are doing is connected with the different departments, because sometimes I get the impression that in some companies the finance team is a little bit more isolated or in the background, so nobody really knows how the finance team does things or what they do exactly. They just like give me the numbers, and in the end the finance team is actually reflecting what's happening, maybe with the sales team or with the customer care team. So everything that's going on in the business, the finance team is trying to reflect that in numbers. So it's important to don't lose from sight that connection that the finance team have with the other departments. What they are doing.
But so you work in the AR part, in the billing part. So I guess you have a strong connection and relationship with customer support and with salespeople.
Yes.
How does that work generally? Like they try to ping you, hey, this did this customer pay, or this customer said that this billing is incorrect. Like, what should we do?
Well, normally, when a customer is upset because they haven't received a payment or the invoice is wrong, obviously they will ping us like, "Hey, this is wrong," and you have to figure out how to fix it and what to do. When it goes, sometimes when it's the other way around, they are trying to do business and you receive the money, they don't go as much to you because they don't have a problem. They are trying to do something. So it's you that has a problem that you're doing something, but I don't know exactly what you're doing. So what do I do with it? Like for instance, we receive I don't know 500 euros. Like where does it come from? What business are we doing? Do we have a contract or not? Are we providing a service? Have we bought something? So that in those cases you have to go to them, or if you are doing a reconciliation of the client's payments, for instance, and you don't find a payment or you don't understand a payment, you're going to go to the customer care team to say, hey, I got this payment from this client, but actually don't know what it is. I think it's wrong, or we should give it back, or what's going on.
Do, do you have any particular like platform or system in place to promote this collaboration between different teams? Or it's I mean, I try to guess it's mainly Slack or whatever system you use there.
Yes, I think in Star the most common one is Slack because it's very easy to ping other people and other teams. In Spotahome, we also use a ticket system. It was called Jira, but that was
Mm-hmm.
basically for the product guys. When we have an issue with product or something broke down, we just put a Jira and they prioritize according with the tasks that they had. But it's mostly, I think those two. Then obviously, emails and Google Drive. Obviously, in the end, you share a lot of, again, the familiar spreadsheet with Teams, and they are comments asking for you things, and you try to reply to them. So it goes different ways of communication, I would say.
Daniel, can you hear me?
Sorry, I think you broke down a little bit.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay, because I cannot see your video, but I guess it's fine. Um, so you mentioned Google Drive, and now I have a question for you. Do you see any interesting trend around spreadsheets and Excel files? Like, do you think they're here to stay, or somehow like ERP or other software, they're going to bring more automation, and then you can rely less on spreadsheets?
Um, so far as I can see, in every business and startup I've been, everybody uses spreadsheets. And I'm talking, from I work at BBA for a time. I'm talking about, big companies to small startups that they don't have the budget and they're obviously going to use spreadsheets. But in big companies and everywhere, even audit companies, when you're doing an audit, they are going to ask for an Excel file. So I don't think they are going away anytime soon. Probably you have more tools such as Sheetco, and there are similar tools. I think there's a startup called Spreadsheet.com, that they're doing interesting things as well. And I think in the end, it's not going to be, it's not going to disappear. Maybe it's going to be replaced with something better. Where it's going to look pretty much the same, but not in the near future that I can see.
Okay. Do you see any other interesting trend in the finance automation like field, or things that you would like to, like it would be nice to have a better way of doing this because right now it's pretty manual?
Mm, yeah, I think. Well, right now, I think the trend is obviously trying to automate things for scaling. Um, but the key part there is to communicate with other departments. Before it used to be that finance teams were a little bit more isolated. I think that's changing, and now finance team have to communicate more with the other departments in the company to try to improve things and automate things because everything is interconnected and it's not as much as it used to be, where the finance team was just in the end a controlling team saying you're spending too much or you're spending too little or we're making too little money. I think now the finance team is more involved in the companies in every aspect really. Now that's the thing I can see, and I think now teams are trying to get more creative and using different tools to automate and improve, and depending on the things that you are trying to do, it may be with an external tool or something that you need to build in house, and for that you have to talk with the product team. So those are the tendencies I see. The finance team is not as much as a fixed team, with 3 or 4 tools like one spreadsheet, and emails address, and that's it. Rather than try to diversify that and use different tools to, in the end, automate and make things a little bit easier and more efficient.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I had a couple of conversations, I think, in the previous weeks with the other finance of a company based in Berlin. He was saying, yeah, finance is not a watchdog anymore. Like, that's not our role. We're not just
Yeah.
bookkeepers. Um, I mean, we need to communicate more with the rest of the company. And I mean, our role is to support the company, not just be here and watch the budget.
Yes, exactly. Actually, I had a when I joined Spot Home, there was like this rule that nobody talked to the finance team, which obviously in the end it changed and it helped a lot in the end, because otherwise it's like you just say, you lose sight of what the company is doing and what you're actually doing, and the end is all interconnected.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's key. Like, not seeing the finance team as a back office, but more like it's really helping growing the company, and like it's on top of the revenue, on top of the cost, and I mean you can share feedbacks, and I mean you can talk to them. They're kind of consultant or how we're supposed to do things. Like, are we selling things and we're actually making money, or the margins are so low that maybe it makes sense doing something
Exactly.
else? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I had, many, when I was at Sport Home, many head of departments in the different locations that were coming to us like, I need to do this. How do we do it? What do you need from me? How can we do it? Is it a good idea or not? What do you think? And I think that's the way things need to go. Like be approachable for the other teams, and not like I'm not going to bother them because they're finance and they're doing numbers. Rather than get in touch and reach out. In the end, we're all
Quick
like going
question:
in the same direction.
how are you doing this at Playtomic for now? Like, do you have office hours, like where you can knock on the door of the finance team, or is this more fluid? Like, you can just lock people on Slack and ask a question to the finance team.
Yeah, I think you have different channels, depending on the issues, and also people in Slack can just Slack you directly. We obviously were working from home normally, but we try to go to the office 1 or 2 times a week because in the end it's always easier to see each other face to face, and you build a better like team relationship with the team, and it's always easier to see things in person. So yeah, I think pretty much people get in touch with you whenever they need to, and as long as they are nice, they're going to look forward to talking to you and try to do things the right way.
So I guess that the key part is being approachable. So like everyone can talk and should talk to the finance team.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. I think it's time to wrap up. So I always like to ask like a handful of questions to my guest. Are you ready for them?
Of course.
Okay. What is the best piece of advice that you have received?
Yeah, it was when I started working in startups. My boss told me, at the end of the day, we are not neurosurgeons, meaning that at the end of the day, it's not life or death what we're doing, and that helps take a little bit of pressure off at the end of the day, and you know see things in perspective, and in the end that uh, yeah, end up being nice to the other departments because everyone gets frustrated. But when you like relativize, put things in perspective, it's always better. You're more relaxed and things flow better.
That's a great Friday afternoon advice
Yeah.
to just relax and chill out.
Thank you.
What book would you recommend to our audience? Is there anything that you're reading right now?
Well, I mostly read fiction, so I don't know if that applies. I mean, I recently read Fahrenheit 451, which is a classic, but I think it's very much relevant nowadays. And I really liked it.
Yeah, it's a great book. What's your main passion outside work?
Well, outside work, I love reading, so I try to read one or two books a month, and I have a very big library. So I'm all the time buying books and reading new books, mostly fiction. So yeah, that's my passion books, I would say.
Yeah, that's a great passion. And if you're not a finance expert, what else would you do?
Um, well, I would say since I love books, probably something related to that. I can't say exactly what for sure, but something in that area.
Nice. Okay, so if people want to find out more about Playtomic, they can check the website or the LinkedIn page. And if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Yeah, they can reach out, sending me a DM on LinkedIn, Daniel Robles, and I'm the one working at Playtomic, and I'll be happy to get in touch with them and reply and talk to them.
Yeah, I will put your LinkedIn profile in the show notes so people can
Okay.
reach out easily. Daniel, it was a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you again and wishing you the best.
Yeah, likewise. Likewise. Have a good day, Christian. It was a pleasure.